My sister.
And Fort McNair is still there. So she lives right next door to Fort McNair.
These axles.
I got
That'd be fun.
Walked in front of Fort McNair.
740 and
to
there
my
was
car.
no one out.
He goes down.
You were gone by 740.
Of course, like once a year, we went to see a concert at the Anthem, because the Anthem is right there on the waterfront, and it's a 10-minute walk. And like the National Stadium is a 10-minute walk.
There was no
Audi
cost. when I-
Stadium
I
is a
paid up.
10-minute walk. I mean, she
Wait a
could
minute.
be in a more perfect.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Especially the.
Yeah.
I won't be with you guys, even high school.
Oh,
kids
no,
are
you
there before I
leave.
get there.
When do you
She
leave?
lives over
And then
the
you're, I'm
which
doing
is
this, grab
nice.
the coach, if I
So
can
they
get
take
in the
the
locker,
each
so you
other,
guys
go
are
to the
leave on,
restaurants, all
still
the
there.
so they're enjoying it.
He probably knows.
I feel like I'm starting
are you
to,
going
like
this
I haven't been there enough. Plus usually.
You
don't have enough time.
So I don't eat at all the nice
Yeah,
restaurants.
not my youngest.
You got a minute.
It's going across the Atlantic.
From that area? Oh,
Get
No,
it,
I'm
but
from
that's-
Oh, okay.
She went to college in William and Mary, and it's sort of a natural migration from
Well, no wonder why these guys don't
Williamsburg
wanna
to
do it.
DC, like a lot of the people that she went to college with, college.
Should want to be in the.
Well, it's confidential, it's fictional.
She majored in international relations.
We're doing
So
this.
originally she
Do
was
you,
gonna go
do you
into
find
Peace
out,
Corps,
you guys, what your ratings are?
but she graduated in 2017 and like the
Well,
whole
it
State
goes-
Department.
I know, I used to laugh every time you did a cow. They're lucky, but.
And then you go to
Guy,
Russell.
yeah.
So she
Yeah,
ended
that's
up,
what
she works for
We've done
Habitat.
So, I mean,
in
I've seen you do
DC,
three,
because
you-
she
you're in
does
your,
that
it's funny, cause
for
I've seen you 4 or 5
But
times walk up and you don't even
next
know,
year.
you're like in your own
Not-
zone when you're
not
doing
while
a
we're
game.
there.
No.
She's on Wall Street up in New York.
Like,
So she.
oh, I didn't know that, okay, so. Yeah, it just seems that way.
And so much.
So it's that little, yeah, you're right.
Renewal.
Wow, that's funny.
Hi. Good evening. Welcome to the September 13th meeting of the East Hempfield Township Planning Commission. Please join me in opening the meeting with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I do believe that this is the first time ever that we've had 10 people in this meeting from the planning commission. So thanks to everybody, 100% attendance. Which means unfortunately, none of the alternates will be voting this evening, but we welcome your comments and participation. On the agenda for this evening, we have a couple of items, but before we get to them, we have the minutes from our last meeting of August 9th. Are there any additions, corrections? If none, I'm ready for a motion on action.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for August.
I'll second it. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Volpe, seconded by Mr. Rohr, that we approve the minutes of the August 9th meeting as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Same.
Nate, I didn't hear you. Did you vote?
Dan?
Dan. I'm sorry, Dan. Not, geez, Nate. Nate, I can't hear you either. Didn't hear you either.
Nate, did you vote?
Second.
Did you vote, Dan?
Yes, I voted aye.
All right, okay. So who were the abstentions, please? Mrs. Byrne. Who else abstained? Somebody
I
else?
did abstain, I wasn't there in August.
Okay. So that would be 5, 0, and 2. With Matt. And Ian. Okay, the first action item this evening is Mennonite Home floodplain restoration. We have waiver and a modification to discuss. Nate, are you going to be providing the narrative for this or?
I'm pulling up the plan right now here.
Uh-oh, password's incorrect. Try again.
So Brent Good from ELA couldn't make it today, so he asked if I could give a brief introduction to this. This is the second part of the Blue-Green Corridor floodplain restoration project along the Little Conestoga Creek. This one is at the southeast corner of Good Drive and Harrisburg Pike. They are requesting one. Having technical issues?
Tell me about it.
They have one modification request that they would like the planning commission to act on. It's to accept the actual conditions instead of using the meadow conditions for pre-development calculations.
So part of the area is not meadow then, I assume.
Not currently, no, they want to use, I think a lot of it's lawn, some trees.
So it's not going anywhere. Apologize for that.
So for the planning commission's action, it's just a modification. We don't do anything on the
Correct.
floodplain restoration plan.
Any further discussion? Although there hasn't been any. Pretty standard, I think.
And this is similar to what you did for Barcrest stormwater plan.
So if somebody would like to make a motion, we can take action.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the supervisor's approval of modification request number one, subject to staff and engineer comments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rohr, seconded by Mrs. Byrne, that we recommend approval of Mennonite home floodplain restoration modification number one, subject to staff and engineer comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain,
Mr. Bolt, please abstain.
family member.
Pardon?
It's a family member that's developed the plan.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Thank you. All right, next item is the 451 Richardson Drive final plan.
Right, good evening. Kevin Ember here from Route 2. Also here is Paul Brooker from Shanks Extracts. Glad to see everyone so excited to hear about our plan. I think most of you have heard at least one of the projects going on with Shanks here at the past few meetings. We were previously here for sketch plan a couple months ago, to give a general overview of the project. And then last month we were here for the site across the street at 350. So just to give a brief overview again of where we're at and what's proposed here at their property at 451 Richardson. It's a 3-acre site in the enterprise zone. Most of the work that is proposed is kind of exterior site work. Reconfiguration of some parking and loading areas and some exterior storage tanks. There is a small building addition proposed in the rear on the east side. I don't know if you can go to the layout plan, Nate. That is about 900 square feet and it's area hatched.
Beyond the green button on the top.
So here's the area of the building addition. There's some exterior storage tanks here and then some tanks along both the south and west side of the building, which we previously got some zoning approvals to allow those to be in what is technically the front yard of this lot, since it's kind of on this radius of Richardson Drive. Most of the site is actually considered front yard. So along with that, as mentioned, there's a reconfiguration of loading docks here, adding 2 additional docks. And this area in front would be a pull-in loading space for a tanker truck to fill up these storage tanks. And then at the rear, we have reconfiguration of some of the parking to try to increase the total parking spaces provided. There's a couple lost here with these loading spaces. And then also there's existing curb and sidewalk that runs along the southwest corner of the property up to the point of the existing loading drive. So we're proposing to extend that curb and sidewalk along the rest of the frontage here. And part of the reason for that, mentioned in previous meetings, is we have discussed a shared parking approach with township staff that's involves the 3 Shanks properties. And that has been reviewed by their traffic engineer, and they didn't have any comments. So there's currently a project going on at their facility at 351 here. That was a stormwater plan to increase some parking there, and the idea that there would be some shared parking between these 2 lots and potentially also the main facility at 350. So there's a net gain of 5 parking spaces with kind of this reconfiguration on the 451 lot from what's there currently. We're also looking to change this to in and out only for some safety and sight distance reasons. We're working through one remaining technical comment with the township traffic engineer on the site distance. We actually did a speed study on this road to show that it may be better suited to be posted at 30 miles an hour rather than the assumed 35 for the industrial use. So that's a general overview of what's being proposed. There's a few technical comments which we are working through with David Miller from their August 23rd letter yet. And we're currently working with LASA to grant the capacity we need for sanitary sewer. There's also 3 modifications that were requested, and just generally, those were related to providing that sidewalk adjacent to the curb, similar to it is existing down here, rather than providing a beauty strip, just because of some existing utilities and the proximity of the existing parking lot to the cartway here. And then there are 2 waivers related to landscaping. One was to request to not provide screening of the exterior storage here because it's adjacent to a stormwater facility. And for maintenance purposes, we want to continue to leave this area a little bit open for access to these. And given that it's industrial area and kind of on the south side of the building, we didn't think it was appropriate, but it is obviously viewable from the road with the configuration of the lot. And the other request or modification was just to provide an equivalent number of parking lot trees in the parking lot islands, but a few would be elsewhere within the site, again, due to existing utilities that run under the parking lot. And there's also a underground stormwater facility proposed in this corner. And then there's existing basin here as mentioned, and that would also be expanded to accommodate this increase in impervious coverage. So we're here tonight to request that conditional recommendation of the final plan approval and also the conditional recommendation of the 3 modification requests. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a couple questions about the site distance part of things. As you mentioned, there's a speed study that's done. I drove this area and obviously saw that there's no speed limit signs on this road. That probably dictated the speed study. I also looked at the site distances out there and looked at the plan. There's one, do the site distances on the plan, are they set based on the 30 mph speed study that was done?
Yes, what was shown on the last plan was based on that 30 mph. And we did that based on kind of standard design standards where we would drive the road and measure it. I think it's 10 times. Traffic engineer wanted us to actually put speed counters out there, which have been out there for about the past week. So we'll analyze that data. But it is obviously most of the road is on kind of a curve, and there is a existing raised crosswalk right here that includes kind of a speed table. And it ends in a cul-de-sac a little further down to the east here. So I think it is definitely, we felt confident that it should be considered that 30 miles an hour, and we will be providing that additional speed study data for their review then.
The second question is, there is one sight line shown on the plan that crosses over a 24-inch existing tree and also crosses over a parking space.
Was that looking this direction?
Right across there. Yep, that existing parking space gets clipped by the site distance, and the 24-inch tree that's out there is right in the sight line.
And I will clarify this with the township engineer, but the direction we had received was that if it's an existing driveway that we aren't modifying, that any site distance requirement would really be grandfathered. But because we are reconfiguring these two driveways here, that's where they required those to come into compliance with the current ordinance.
Okay, so what's the button here?
Maybe just to double check, is that accurate that we sort of grandfather in the other entrances? Nothing.
Not entirely sure. I would have to talk to Scott about that. I know a lot of the times if it's solder related, it doesn't get grandfathered in, but I'm not entirely sure about anything street and sidewalk related.
Either way, I saw in the engineer's comment letter that, the study is being reviewed by a transportation engineer regarding safe stopping distance and sight distance. So I would expect that engineer is going to comment if there's a concern. I just wanted to bring those points up that I saw on the plan.
Okay, thanks.
Has the landscaping plan been adjusted per the modification, the extra trees and so forth? Have they
Yeah,
already
if
been
you
incorporated?
Go to its sheet 7, 8, that shows. So one of the things that was requested from David Miller was just identify where those trees were proposed that weren't in the parking lot island. So these two that are designated in red. We're basically proposing more on the eastern boundary rather than in these interior islands. There's actually two Lassa sewer mains, which run through here with a rather substantial easement. And then as mentioned, there's an underground stormwater facility proposed here. So that was limiting where we could put the trees in the parking lot.
And that one at the top won't interfere with sight distance on that other exit?
I don't believe so. There wasn't a clear sight triangle issue. It was more the sight distance as you were out into the intersection,
Okay.
looking left along this curve.
Are there any other questions?
I had one other quick question, and you may have addressed this, and I may have not heard it. In the DMA review letter under streets and sidewalks, there was one comment about the 150-foot center line separation distance between the existing and proposed driveways. Did you address that?
Again, and I'll clarify this with the township engineer when we resubmit, but I had talked to Scott about that issue. And again, he said, well, since we aren't making a worse condition, he would consider that additional waiver then wouldn't.
You wouldn't
be
need that
required.
waiver then? Okay.
That was discussed with him, and I will respond that way when we resubmit. And if there's another issue, we will work that through with them.
Going once, twice?
You have a lot of stuff on that lot.
I think we've pretty much
Everything but
maxed
grass.
out the use of this property, so hopefully we won't be back here again.
Gonna say, I don't know where you're gonna expand now.
Okay, we have 3 modifications to take action on. One of them is to be granted, I'll say outright, the other 2 have conditions with them.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of modification request number 2 and conditional approval of modification requests 1 and 3, subject to all staff and engineering comments.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Detter, seconded by Mr. Palakowski, that we recommend approval of modification number 2 and conditional approval of modifications 1 and 3, subject to staff and engineer comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That would be unanimous. Then on the final land development plan itself.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the final land development plan for 451 Richardson Drive, subject to all staff and engineering review comments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Detter, seconded by Mrs. Byrne, that we recommend approval of the final land development plan for 451 Richardson Drive, subject to all staff and engineer comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That would be unanimous then.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Was there any old business that needs to come before the commission? Nope. Nope. Any questions on the project update? And I assume by the clear screen up there, except for Dan, that there's no public comment.
There is none.
Okay. In that case, the meeting is adjourned. Before everybody leaves, I would just like to let you know that I will not be here the next 2 meetings.
Next 2.
I am traveling across the Atlantic and around Africa and won't be back until the December meeting. So
Nice. Enjoy.
so it will be quite a journey.
And